Hey everyone, my name's Cece. Welcome to my channel where I talk about books and stuff. For today's video, I am going to be talking about The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. So real quick, I have actually already read the entire Throne of Glass series. I started the series when I was in high school and then I finished it maybe like 2 years ago. But I recently reread a good chunk of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and then I read A Court of Silver Flames when it came out. It just made me really want to reread the Throne of Glass series and revisit the world because I've forgotten so much of it, and I do love this series. At least I did when I first read it. I decided to reread the entire series and then make videos about each book. It will either be a sit-down video like this or a reading vlog because I feel like that would be fun, especially for the later books. With this book, I didn't really have that many updates throughout reading it. I did try to vlog the experience, but there wasn't much that I had to say in the moment, so I felt like doing a regular sit-down video would be better. My initial thoughts on rereading The Assassin's Blade. I actually really enjoyed this reread. I tried to reread it a couple years ago before the last book came out and I couldn't get through it. I just skipped it because I wanted to get to Throne of Glass. I really enjoyed the last bit of this book. I would say that all the stories in this are necessary to the plot, and I feel like that's why they're in here. But the first two, the Pirate Lord and then the Healer, necessary, but not anything super amazing. Actually, I wouldn't say that like any of these stories are my favorite, just because they feel very foundational, which is the purpose, is to give Selena's backstory, and it's not a full novel. They definitely read like novellas, and I feel like if this had been just a book rather than a collection of short stories, we could have gotten a little bit more from the characters, which is where I feel like, I'm gonna put this down now, which is where I feel like the story kind of fell a little flat. I personally would not read this book without having read at least the first 3 books in this series. I feel like that's kind of the way to do it, is you read the first 3 and then you read The Assassin's Blade and then you move on to the rest of the series, because this book is really just so much setup for the rest of the series. So many of the characters that are talked about in this book are barely even mentioned in the first 3 books, so I feel like that's really the way to do it, but I wanted to read it in chronological order. Anyway, back to the characters. What I mean by a little flat is just that Sam's character, I still needed more to like connect with him. The only things that we really know about him are his background with his mom and how he came to be an assassin, which is that his mom asked Arobynn to take him in and train him, that he's in love with Selena, and that he has been for years, and that's kind of it. And so I feel like a big part of his personality is just being in love with her. I didn't really see a reason. It was kind of like Sarah J. Maas was doing enemies to lovers, but so quickly to where it still kind of felt like insta love. I know that like Selena's history with Sam is already established, so we're just kind of supposed to rely on that, but still, it was like I need a little bit more interaction between these two people for me to believe that they're actually in love, which I don't think that Selena was ever actually like full on in love with Sam. I think she definitely cared for him, but I don't think she ever said that she loved him. Maybe after he died, but I don't know. I can't remember. But I feel like no, I feel like I would have noticed that. Then there's Arobynn's character. I appreciated him as a villain in this book because he has more depth to him than some of the other villains that we see throughout this series. That being said, I wish we kind of knew more about him. I just always find myself thinking, where does this guy come from? What is his backstory? How did he become an assassin? And maybe I just forgot that because I feel like maybe that does come up later on. My overall consensus with the characters is that there could have been more to them. I understand that these are short stories, so maybe that's why. Especially Sam's character, because it's just a little disappointing. I did not really connect with him, and I don't feel like one book is enough to connect with a character in a series that is so large, especially if he's not the main character. So that's understandable. The last story was definitely painful to read. I didn't think that I was gonna cry, and I did shed a few tears for Sam because I feel like the way he died was so brutal. He really just wanted to be free. He didn't get that, and he was so close and so hopeful, and that just was really sad to read. That last story really got me, and I would say I enjoyed it the most. The other things that I noticed throughout the book were that there were like a few moments that were super angsty, and I thought they were funny just because I definitely didn't notice them the first time reading them, and I think that's gonna be a trend throughout the rest of the series, is I'm gonna notice now for the first time how angsty things are. I don't mind. I think it's pretty fun. Compared to A Court of Silver Flames, it's pretty mild. I was having a lot of thoughts about Selena's character while reading this. Again, you kind of have to read the other 3 books to know what's going on. Otherwise, like if you just jump into this one first, I feel like you wouldn't really understand her character. She wouldn't be very likable. Things just kind of wouldn't really make sense when it came to her as a character if you didn't read the first 3 books, which is weird because, not weird, interesting because this is a prequel, so I feel like you should kind of get a sense of who she is in the prequel, but I don't know. Anyway, I know some criticisms of her character are that she is really cocky and kind of rude, which yeah, she is rude. I can definitely excuse her being rude. She's supposed to be like 16, 17 in this book, and when you're 16 and 17, you just say stuff sometimes. I mean, I know that's like definitely not the case for a lot of people. Like most people aren't that rude. At that age, you don't really think before you speak, or you know, it's more likely for you to not think before you speak when you're younger. But in terms of her being overly confident, she is so insecure about certain aspects of herself and her past that she overcompensates by being overly confident in other aspects of her life. So she's like, yeah, I'm the best assassin. At the same time, she is scared all the time. Her having this cockiness to her is just her overcompensating for actually being extremely insecure and guilty about what went down in her past. And so that's why she acts the way that she does. I feel like a big thing that is done throughout the series, but especially in this book, is Sarah J. Maas just kind of like shoving it down our throats that Selena is the best assassin, when in reality, she isn't, and that's fine because I wouldn't expect her to be the best. She has been training for 8 years, which is a really long time, but she is only 16. She still is so young, and obviously, with the way that she acts, she still has a lot to learn. She gets caught up in messy situations all the time, and if she was the best, then she wouldn't get caught up so much. It's just like inconsistencies like within her story that just, I feel like, lower the quality. Another common criticism is that she's an assassin, but she doesn't actually kill people. It kind of hyped up her being an assassin for like marketing purposes, because that's like the tagline of Throne of Glass. It's something really cheesy about like 2 men loving her, and her having to save the kingdom because she's like the best and most feared and world-renowned assassin. In reality, she has a lot to learn. One thing that I did really enjoy was revisiting Irene's character for a little bit. I thought that was really fun, and honestly, I wish we had gotten more of Irene throughout the entire series. That would have also made the series so much longer. Overall, I would say this reread was a whole lot of fun, and it made me very excited to continue with the rest of the series. I am going to say that while I do have criticisms for this book, I had a lot of fun reading it. I know that this isn't the best story already. Now that I'm rereading it as an adult, I notice more of the flaws. I've read more books since then, so I just feel like I read more critically than when I did in high school. So I'm definitely gonna have a lot more critiques this time around reading the series, but I also think that that's part of the fun. I feel like I can definitely critique this series and still love it at the same time. I would love to know what you guys think of The Assassin's Blade, your opinions on each of the stories, what were your favorite parts, least favorite parts. Talk to me in the comments, please. I want to talk about this series with people, so if you've read it, discuss with me. I will see you in another video soon. Bye-bye.